Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 29, Chest Injuries. This is just a brief introduction so that you can get started on the multiple ways that chest injuries can be a life threat in EMS. Every year in the United States, chest trauma causes more than 700,000 emergency department visits and 18,000 deaths. The reason that they have such a high mortality rate is they can involve the heart, lungs, and great blood vessels. As EMTs, we need to know how to assess a patient both with mechanism of injury and physically on their body to know if they've sustained a chest injury and what to do with it. It's our responsibility to immediately treat injuries that interfere with normal breathing function. This will kill a patient very quickly if they are so hurt that they are unable to breathe adequately. Internal bleeding can compress the lungs and the heart, and also air can collect in somewhere called the pleural space, preventing lung expansion and therefore the patient not being able to exchange gases, get rid of waste, and sustain life. Examples of significant causes of chest injury, trauma, death. Motor vehicle crashes or motor vehicle collisions are very common. Even with a seatbelt, you'll see something called a seatbelt injury. Falls, assaults with baseball bats, fists, penetrating trauma, stab wounds, gunshot wounds, and something called blast trauma associated with an explosion. A little bit of A&P, and then you're going to go right into it when you start reading the rest of your slides. Ventilation is the body's ability to move air in and out of the chest and lung tissue. Respiration is gas exchange at the very smallest level of the alveoli in the lung tissue. The chest or thoracic cage extends from the lower end of the neck to the diaphragm. This is important in your assessment so that you understand how blunt trauma can cause a problem with ventilation and respiration, and you understand how the thoracic cavity protects our internal organs. So if those are broken, underlying structures may be injured as well. Just a little review of anatomy and physiology. So the thoracic skin, muscles, and bones, we want to take a look here, and let's see if I can point to this for you. So here you have the heart, right? The pulmonary arteries branch right off of that. The aorta is a very large structure. So you can see that if you have any blunt trauma here, there's a possibility of an injury to the aorta. You can also injure the actual cardiac muscle tissue. You also, here, as you can see, the lungs and the pleural lining, air can get trapped in between there and actually cause the lungs to not be able to inflate. It's important that you understand where all of these vascular structures are. When somebody is in a high-speed car accident and decelerates or has to hit the brakes very quickly, that can cause trauma to those vessels called shearing trauma, where the vessels can actually either separate inside the walls of the vessels themselves or they can tear. Just remember that in this chest cavity, you can affect ventilation, respiration, and cardiac function. So it's really important to understand your anatomy. Down here, the diaphragm, if you have what looks like abdominal trauma, that can still cause issues with breathing if the diaphragm cannot contract upward and downward. So that's the introduction part of this lecture. Please go through the rest of it. You're going to look at mechanism of injury, blunt trauma, penetrating trauma, and blast injuries. Make sure that you're familiar with your anatomy and physiology enough to understand if somebody has a bruise over the right side of their chest, what could be involved. If somebody has a bruise over the center of their chest, what could be involved, and how would you know? Thanks for joining me. We'll see you the next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.